Welcome back, you guys. It's been a bit. My family and I went on vacation, and so I took a bit of a break from social media in general, but I'm back. And the first thing that we're going to really dive into is every year on April 1st, the r/fantasy subreddit does a bingo challenge geared to everybody who reads not just fantasy, but any sort of speculative fiction, with the purpose of trying to push people in the community out of their comfort zone and pick up a book that maybe they wouldn't have picked up before, or to knock down some of the books on their TBR. Today, I figured one thing that we can do is take a look at what these are, determine what books that I am going to put on my TBR for this challenge, and hopefully this year I can actually complete it. To give a bit more context, for those that may not be aware, this bingo challenge, like I said, happens every year. It goes from April 1st to March 31st, and the point of this challenge is not to do one row bingos, but to do a knockout or a blackout, which means you're going to complete the entire board. For this, I believe it is 25 different book challenges that could range from specific character types to settings to author backgrounds to whatever. Like, anything can be a bingo square. With that said, there are a couple of squares that are repeats from previous years. So things like read a POC author is a repeat every year to try and encourage people to read more marginalized authors, authors with marginalized backgrounds. So without further ado, let's go on and get into this. Okay, so now, as you can see, we're on the r/fantasy subreddit and looking at this bingo board. Full transparency, I have already tried to do this video once. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn on my mic, and so I'm not seeing this board for the first time anymore. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to react to it, but I can kind of go through it and then go through what the books that I have already chosen for this bingo. So as we can see, you can see that this is the bingo board is split up into 25 different squares with different prompts on them. So like this first one being Knights and Paladins, it's for the most part self-explanatory. You need to read a book that features a knight or a paladin. But if we scroll down where it has all the rules for each challenge, we can see that there is also a hard mode. So for Knights and Paladins, again, one of the pro tags has to be a paladin or a knight, but the hard mode is the character has to have an oath or promise to keep. So for something like this, I feel like a lot of people will most likely go the way of Kings or any sort of Sanderson-esque book, because it does kind of fit that narrative for both regular and hard mode. But for me, I'm going to try and knock down books. This isn't my bookshelf, but for effect, knock down books on my TBR to kind of force myself to not pick up new books, but to read books that I already own. So we'll go through, there's also Hidden Gem, a book with under 1,000 ratings, so on and so forth. Each one, I'll leave the link to this down in the description, but each one kind of goes into details of what the challenge is, as well as what the hard mode could be. With that said, there are rules with this challenge. For example, you can read a reread, but you can only have one reread, and you cannot have multiple authors or the same authors several times. You can only have each author on there one time. So that way you're not reading, let's say, like on here, there's LGBTQIA pro tag, but there's also Gods and Pantheons. So I couldn't choose Hannah Kaner's series and have book 2 be Gods and Pantheons and book 3 be an LGBTQIA protagonist. That's just not how it works. For the fun of the challenge, you are to go and find multiple different authors for the entire thing. So again, I will leave this link in the description for it in case you're interested in doing it yourself. But let's go ahead and I'll show you, while we go through these, the picks that I have. So if we're going to move over here to my Canva, and you can see that I've already pulled in the bingo card. They do allow you to have the bingo card available so that you can take it and then edit it whichever way you want. So for something like Knights and Paladins, the book that I chose is Between Two Fires by Christopher Pullman. This is something that I have had on my shelves for a couple of years now, but I have not given it a chance yet. And so to try and knock this off of my TBR, I'm going to go ahead and throw it on there. It was something that was suggested. If you also go into that subreddit for the bingo post, you can click on each one and folks will give you an idea of what are some books that fit this theme. And you can also ask in there, hey, this is a book that I feel like might fit this. Should I, does it fit does it fit the spirit of the theme? And they'll say, yeah, it has, I've read this book should fit. Or they'll say, hey, it really doesn't, you can kind of force it, but if you want to really take this challenge, you probably should choose something else. So Between Two Fires, I believe the pro tag is a knight, so this is just something I chose for that. For the next one, Hidden Gem, something that has to be under 1,000. It has to have under 1,000 Goodreads reviews. I decided to choose Elliot Brooks' book, Peace and Turmoil, because she just released her second book and I really would like to read it. And so this is one that I have had on my e-reader for a bit. So hopefully I enjoy it and then I can pick up book 2 and support her as a smaller creator, or as a smaller author, to try and get a little bit more of those reviews and maybe shine light on a book that deserves a little bit more love. So that's the reason why I chose that one. For the next one, as you can see, I chose Howl's Moving Castle, and that's for published in the 80s. There were a couple of different books that I had thought about. Originally I was going to do a Janie Wirtz book, but I believe the series that I wanted to do was in the 90s. Then I thought about doing Mage's Apprentice, because that's going to be the next Broken Binding series, and I thought, oh, well, it's going to be a book that's on my shelves anyway. But I decided to go with Howl's Moving Castle because it's going to be something that's a little bit lighter. The next one is High Fashion. Going onto the Reddit, sorry I'm not looking at y'all, I have another screen over here. It looks like High Fashion is read a book where clothing, fashion, or fiber arts are important to the plot. This is something that I struggled trying to find something to put into that slot. And so for right now, I'm leaving it blank. If you have any suggestions on something that may fit that, please let me know. A lot of it that were suggested seem to be books that may not appeal to me, and I don't want to choose something that I'm just going to DNF. The next one is Down with the System. So read a book in which a main plot revolves around disrupting a system. A lot of this is going to probably end up being science fiction, a lot of dystopians, and that was the way I was going to go. But then I remembered last year I picked up Chain Gang All Stars, and the entire purpose of this is to disrupt the prison system. And so I decided to slot this one in here because I feel like it's going to be a little bit different. It's a bit more, rather than just straight fantasy or straight sci-fi, it's a bit more of a literary fiction, but it does fit for speculative fiction novels. So kind of stretching it a little bit here, but I think that would be a perfect book to go along with that. The next one is Impossible Places. Impossible Places is a book that's set in a location that would break a physicist. For this, folks said in there, because I didn't really have anything that kind of fit this prompt, but folks said that the book that wouldn't burn fits this perfectly. And so, as you can see, I have it right here. Actually, I'm just going to leave this down here instead of having to scroll back and forth and just read the stuff from the side. So the book that wouldn't burn is what I slotted in this spot. I'm not sure what part of it breaks it. Maybe the library has a little bit of magic going on with it. Can't wait to read it and find out. For the next one, A Book in Parts. This one I could have chosen anything. A book that's separated into parts, whether it be days, years, part 1, part 2, whatever. But I decided to go with Moonbound. It's one of the books that I've been wanting to read, and that I said, I believe early in this year, that it is a hopeful for me to finish it within this year. And so it's perfect opportunity for me to throw it on there. Any book, honestly, in the fantasy genre would fit, especially epic fantasies. They tend to be broken up into parts, but I felt this was a great opportunity to choose Moonbound by Robin Sloan. For the next one, it is Gods and Pantheons. And another series that I said that I wanted to get through this year is the God Eaters saga by Rob J. Hayes. And so I chose one of the novellas, Deathless, the one that I have not read yet. because it does, I believe, bleed into gods and angels and demons, rather than in the first one where it was mostly just demons. So hopefully I can get through this one. If I decide to go for the if novellas aren't allowed this year, which I assume they are, but if not, then I'll just go for the main series of God Eater Saga, which I think is Herald. For last in the series, I decided to go with Hannah Kaner's Faithbreaker. I really loved, if you watched my 24-hour readathon, I really loved the first book in this series. I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I did, so it was really a surprise to me how much I loved it, and then I just read it straight through without any breaks. I want to finish this series this year, and so I am forcing myself by putting it as a book, the third book being the one that I'm going to finish for this challenge. I'm really forcing myself to kind of get this entire series down. So hopefully I really enjoy it, and maybe I'll do another 24-hour readathon where I just try and finish this series, reading books 2 and book 3. All right, so the next one you can see that I left blank. The reason why I left it blank is because it's for book club or read along. There are tons of book clubs that are on the r/fantasy subreddit, and there's a couple that I'm also in. And at the moment, I'm not sure what book I want to choose. You don't have to choose something that is currently being read. It could be something that is being read that has been read in the past, or one that is being read later on. So I left that blank just to give myself a bit more opportunities. It most likely will be one of the later books that I read as well, just so I'm giving myself a good amount of books to choose from. Going to the third row, the first for the first square, parent protagonist, I chose The Voice of War, which is going to be my only reread on this entire bingo board. I've already read Voice of War a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I think it is a series that deserves a little bit more love. It's a very unique magic system, and I really just enjoy the fact that it is a family dynamic. We don't really get a lot of adult protags with children in fantasy or in sci-fi, and so it was a really refreshing book for me. Because I want to read the rest of the series, and it has been a couple of years since I read the first one, I decided, you know what, I'll have this be my one reread and also fit this prompt. I highly suggest, if you have not heard of it, or you have and you've been kind of putting it on the back burner, to really go ahead and check this series out. It's really fantastic, at least for the first book. I'm assuming the rest are really great as well. I've heard nothing but good things from them. And if you want a magic system that really just seems different, kind of similar to like Mistborn, but done in a very different way, and with some parts of this magic system being unveiled as we go along through the series, both to us and to the characters, then definitely pick it up. Now, to switch it up a little bit, as you can see, most of this table is science fiction and fantasy, but I also want to try and get into a little bit more horror, and so the next book that I chose is The Unworthy. I don't really know anything about it. I just know that the author is the same one that did Tender as the Flesh. Wasn't a book that gelled with me too much, at least from the audiobook, because I wasn't a big fan of the narration style. It was a bit stale, but I do want to give it another shot because I hear it's really great. The Unworthy is a really small book, and so I feel like I could knock this one out pretty quickly and also have it hit part of that spoopy season. But this is for the epistolary, a book that must prominently feature any of the following, which is diary or journal entries, letters, messages, newspaper clippings, transcripts, etc. This was another one that folks had said, hey, this really fits the bill here, and it's a new book, so I decided to go with that. For published in 2025, I had a couple of different options. I decided to go with The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. It's one of my most highly anticipated books. Comes out next month. So it may be one of the first things that I knock off of this board. I don't think it needs really any introduction. There's been a lot of hype around it. So that's what I'm doing for that one. For POC author, I decided to go with Kindred by Octavia Butler. She's essentially the godmother of science fiction. I am ashamed to say I haven't read any of her books, but I do own a couple, and so Kindred was the one that really I decided to knock off my physical TBR. I got this really beautiful edition and figured this is the best time for me to go ahead and start getting into her works. So The next one is my most anticipated book of the year, which is Of Empires and Dust by Ryan Cahill. If you haven't heard, it's my favorite series of all time. I am currently reading it and I'm loving it, and so this will be the first thing that I knock off of this bingo board. This one is fitting in for small press or self-published. The one caveat with this is that The Bound of the Broken was picked up last year by the Broken Binding, but since they're still a small press, it does fit. But if you are to do this, understand that for this particular square, if a book that you want to read was originally self-published but has since been picked up by one of the big 5 publishers, it does not fit for the square anymore. If you have read it and put it on there prior to it being picked up, then it counts. So I'm going with Of Empires and Dust, book 4 in The Bound of the Broken. Really, really loving it. I know it's going to be a tough read for me and it's going to be a long read, but I am super excited and hopefully I can get it done within the next few weeks and get a review out. For Biopunk, originally I was going to choose Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett because I'm kind of midway through his first book in that series. But I decided to go with something a little bit different and go with Womb City just so I can read, give myself an opportunity to read a lot of POC authors. Womb City, from what I saw, doesn't have the greatest reviews. It's a little mixed, but I feel like it might be something that I really enjoy, and it's also giving me a chance to read a little bit more sci-fi this year. For Elves and Dwarves, decided to read Orconomics. I hear it's funny, I hear it's great, and it has, I guess, elves and or dwarves. So that one's going to be on the list. For LGBTQIA protagonist, I put Harrow the Ninth. Read Gideon the Ninth a couple of years ago for a book club that I was doing at my job. I really, really enjoyed it, and I just haven't really had the opportunity to read the next 2 books in the series, especially with Electo being possibly permanently put on the back burner. Who knows, maybe it comes out this year. If it does, I'll at least be on the way to getting caught up. But Harrow, I'm super excited for it, to see where the story goes after the ending of Gideon the Ninth. If you are unaware, this is essentially lesbian necromancers in space. So really mindfucky, really weird, really funny. It's a great series. So another one that I'm hoping I can get done this year and hopefully have a review out for. Now the next one is 5 SFF short stories. This is something that is every year. I don't typically read a lot of short story fiction, but I do have a couple of short story collection books, and one of them that I do have is The Advent of Winter. This has a lot of smaller authors, a lot of self-pub authors, a lot of indie pub authors, and so I think this gives me an opportunity to read a lot more indie pub and self-pub, show a lot of support for that. The next is A Memory Called Empire, and that is for Stranger in a Strange Land, which is to read a book that deals with a being. Let's try that again. Read a book that deals with being a foreigner in a new culture. Now, I tried reading this last year, but it was during a time when I was in a little bit of a reading slump, and this book is not an easy read. There's a lot of nuance to it when it comes to language. There's a lot of nuance to it when it comes to the cultures that our main protagonist is experiencing, and so a lot of it feels like you're actually the person who is the foreigner in this land, trying to understand how their culture works, right? So I think this fits absolutely perfectly for it, and it's a series. I've both book 1 and book 2, A Memory Called Empire and A Desolation Called Peace. I've had them for a while, and so getting this knocked off of my physical TBR would be amazing. Now, the next one also has been on my TBR for a very long time, and I'm ashamed to say that I have not read anything by Lyndon A. Lewis, but really hoping to get this series knocked out. It's a very short series, so shouldn't be too bad, but that is for Recycling a Bingo Square. To be honest, I don't remember what bingo square I was recycling. I think it might have been a book it was for a book that's been on my TBR for at least a year. And so it's been on my TBR for, I think since it came out, and I think it came out in like 2020, 2021. So it's been on my TBR for a very long time. So getting it knocked out would feel great. like I mostly listen to audiobooks or read on my e-reader, so I have a very large physical backlog, and so I'm trying my best to try and knock it down, and hopefully this, A Memory Called Empire, In Between Two Fires, we're really going to start setting the tone for knocking those physical books out. Another book I don't really know anything about, but it's a sci-fi series, woman protag as far as I'm aware, and so it's going to be a surprise to me is what it's about. For cozy science fiction and fantasy, I decided to go with Wandering In. I've started reading it a couple of times, but I haven't gotten through it all the way, usually just trying to read it on, I believe this is by Pirate Abba, trying to read it on their website, since you can still read a good chunk of it for free. But we'll see. I might audiobook this just because of how long the first book is. I might read it online, whichever way fits, but it's a very, very cozy portal fantasy where the main protag gets sucked into a world, a fantasy world, and they have to kind of just deal with it, and they find this inn, and they're compelled to fix it up, to make it their own, their new home, their everything. And it's just such a very goofy series, and I'm hoping to really like get into it and kind of have it be something that I just casually read for a while. The third from the last book that I chose for generic title, which reads, read a book that has one or more of the following words in the title: blood, bone, broken, court, dark, shadow, song, sword, or throne. I chose Shadow of What Was Lost, another series that has been on my TBR for a little bit. I think I got the entire series last year, but I have had the ebooks for I think since 2019. I really, really loved James Islington's latest series, The Hierarchy. I believe it's the Hierarchy series era. Book 2 for that series is coming out this year, and I'm super excited for it, but I really, really, really have been wanting some more of his writing. I enjoy the ideas, the blending of fantasy and sci-fi, but doing it in a way that really blows your mind, like he did in The Will of the Many. And I've heard that The Shadow of What Was Lost is a fantastic experience of that. Getting that blend of sci-fi, fantasy, having those ideas meld in a way that you haven't had before. And so I feel that The Shadow of What Was Lost is going to be a series, is going to start for a series that's really going to like take over me. So I have that on here. Another book, again, that has been on my TBR for a very long time. As you can see, the running theme. So going to knock that one out. For the penultimate one, it's the only square that is not a book. If you didn't know, this one is literally not a book. That's what the theme is. Choose anything that's not a book. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a show, it could be a video game, it could be whatever. So for me, I chose video games. One of my largest hobbies is playing games, which another thing I have a large backlog in. So I decided to choose a series or a game that is not long. I hear it's very short to finish all routes, but has a deeper meaning to it. A game that has a finite ending. I could choose something like Destiny or Fortnite or whatever, and there's no finite ending to it. It's just whenever I feel like I'm done with it. But I wanted to choose something that I can get something out of. And so for that, I chose Amori, which I have heard is a very, very touching tale of a child who is going through the motions from what I believe might be things like depression and anxiety, trying to understand the world, a very coming of age story. The art style looks phenomenal. I cannot wait to play this game. And so that is what's going to be on here for Not a Book. And I hopefully I can finish all the routes, but obviously it's not going to be something I probably talk about on here, seeing as this is a book forward channel. Now, for the final book on the bingo card, it is for Pirates. And I already started it since I was on a cruise a couple weeks ago. I decided what could be more getting me in the mood for this cruise than reading some pirate fantasy. And so far, I'm not too far into it. I've read a couple of chapters, but The Adventures of Mina al-Sarafi has tickled that itch of wanting pirate fantasy, of wanting seafaring fantasy, a genre or a subgenre of fantasy that I have not read before. So why not continue on this path and finish reading this book? I know there's some others that people really love that I could have done, but I feel like this really fits the bill for me, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. So this is my 2025, more or less, bingo card. Tell me what you think. Tell me, are you going to be doing bingo this year? What are some books that you feel might fit in those 2 squares that I have missing still? What are some books that you suggest I should read over some others? Maybe we can come to an agreement and I'll read something else for one of these squares, right? So just let me know down in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're going to be doing. Let me know if you like this video by giving it a like. Let me know if you dislike this video by giving it a dislike. And don't forget to subscribe. But that's it for me for today. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.